Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another edition of the Mandatory Live. Remember, if you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, follow us on our social media channels. We're at the Mandatory TKO, and you can also find us on the audio side. So, if you got a couple of minutes, leave a written review, give us a 5-star, because why wouldn't you? And by the way, happy Thanksgiving to everyone celebrating. The WBO has ordered a fight between Arnold Barboza Jr. and Jack Catterall, which would essentially be a title eliminator. And the winner would be able to fight Teofimo Lopez after. They would be the number one contender. Bryan, when you think about this fight, Arnold Barboza Jr. and Jack Catterall, right now we don't know where it's going to be. So this could potentially, again, I think there's two options. It would be in Jack Catterall's backyard because Jack Catterall sells out there.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big name there.
Mm-hmm.
Or we get it in Saudi again. Like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they'll probably it's gonna be the UK or so. Either way, Arnold Barboza's kind of screwed. We'll see. He'll be up against it, and this is gonna be a tough fight. I think one, Jack Catterall is gonna be the betting favorite, and two, I think that Arnold Barboza could really win this fight. I think Jack Catterall could too. Like, this is one that's gonna be tough.
yeah.
I think it'll open probably like 50-50, and then Catterall will get bet up, and then late money will come in on Barboza, and Barboza will be like a slight dog going into the fight, is my general expectation, especially if this is in the UK. If this is in the UK, maybe he's slightly more than slight of an underdog.
If this is in the UK, I feel like Arnold Barboza would have to convincingly beat Jack Catterall. Like, if it was a very close fight, which I actually expect this to be a very close fight, I think it could be a majority decision or a split decision between Arnold and Jack. That's how I think it's a good fight too. Like, I've
Yeah.
never really sat up here and been like, "Yo, I think this Jack Catterall fight is going to be crazy. I can't wait. I'm not going to do shit that day. I'm just going to wait for this Jack Catterall fight." This is this is the fight where I'm saying that. And obviously, I'm rocking with Arnold Barboza Jr. Come on. I would place my money on Arnold for this fight just because, well, number one, I
Even if
mean,
it's in the UK, you would do it?
I would be betting with my heart,
Okay.
and I would place it on Arnold. Like, let's be serious here.
West Side.
Yeah, he Raiders and Dodgers fan, Shout out to Arnold Sr. too, supporter. You know what I mean? I gotta rock with the Barbosas at this one. I do think that Arnold Barboza Jr. has a better chance if it is in Saudi. And if the bread is there, why not? I'm just not the biggest fan of the crowds there because I think they'd be wilding out in Jack Catterall's backyard. And I'm not like the biggest, like, oh my God, I love fights in the UK. It looks lit. I want to see a fight in the UK. But yeah, like I would rather have it in Jack Catterall's backyard because I think the ambiance would be better than Saudi, but I think Arnold would have a better shot in Saudi. What about you, Bryan? How would you lean towards this fight? And does the location matter to you?
Yes. Yes. If it's in the UK, then I'm probably setting and forgetting Jack Catterall by decision, because I think at a minimum, Arnold Barboza gets robbed, or Jack Catterall like toughs out another close fight. He was looking shaky at times against Regis Prograis, and then he ended up finishing really strong. And the cards were like wide. I felt like the fight, like it was getting wide toward the end, but I don't think it was
Mm.
that wide the entire way. Like, Regis was actually competitive and rocking Jack Catterall at times. Jack Catterall doesn't want to take a ton of chances. Arnold Barboza is very calculated as well, but when you watch the Jose Ramirez fight and when you watch some of his other like peak performances, like, he'll mix it up in there a little bit. He's gonna constantly move and jab and things of that nature. And Jack Catterall loves that left overhand, like loves just shooting that from distance and then just sort of like stepping back and creating that space. Like, if Jack Catterall is able to get that timing down, then yeah, Arnold Barboza is going to be in trouble if he establishes that overhand left right away.
But you know what? I think Jack Catterall, he also likes to fight on the inside, and he kind of at the same time likes to be that aggressive fighter. And Arnold Barboza Jr. just fought a guy like that into Jose Ramirez.
Sure. Yeah.
And I thought Arnold actually had a great game plan. Arnold is going to use his IQ. He's going to use his footwork. He is going to mix it up. He is going to get to the body. And I think he's going to fight from a distance and at mid range. And I think it's going to be a very interesting fight just to see if Jack Catterall can get into a rhythm, because I think Jack Catterall is going to want to be stalking him in that ring, depending on what type of fight they want to fight. Now, Jack Catterall fought a totally different fight against Regis Prograis than I thought he would. And I thought it, bode well for him. But I think this is going to be a fight that is extremely close. If you're in the comment section, let us know who you think is going to win. Let us know where you want this fight. But Bryan, there's more to this.
Yeah, there is.
Because the winner could possibly get Teofimo Lopez.
WBO champion.
Now, let me ask you a question. What is the more interesting fight to you? Teofimo Lopez and Arnold Barboza Jr. or Jack Catterall and Teofimo Lopez? And I think there's another angle to this too, because there's two guys in the 140-pound division that are fighting next weekend.
Yeah. And Hustle Man drops a question about that. We're going to be doing a post-fight show that's not going to be specific to one fight, because there's going to be multiple big fights that day. So it'll just be after those fights are done. We'll clear that up and like schedule it, and you guys will see. Now, the more interesting challenge for Teofimo Lopez, I mean, duh, whoever wins. But the actual answer, I would say, like, there might be more heat and shit talking in the Arnold Barboza fight.
100%, because their dads went at it.
Yeah, like in terms of just intrigue on that level. Not to say Jack Catterall and his team might not mix it up beforehand. I'm sure that they will. And Jack Catterall could be like, hey, you beat Josh Taylor, I beat him too, and I beat him twice and got robbed the first time. And beat a better version of Josh Taylor than Teofimo Lopez did, evidently, right? But I think the Arnold Barboza will provide more back and forth. I'm more curious as to like who actually gives him, like, who's more of a stylistic problem for Teofimo Lopez, because I don't think, if you're Teofimo Lopez, like, both of these could be pain in the ass. One, Arnold Barboza, one thing I do worry about in this fight is like the last time we saw him against a southpaw, I think that was Sean McComb fight. He really struggled, I felt like. And Jack Catterall's a southpaw, different kind of southpaw, but a southpaw no less. And that's going to be a weird stylistic thing to deal with. But with Teofimo Lopez, if he fights Jack Catterall, that's going to be a tricky fight, because timing the southpaw, the overhand left that I mentioned, and Jack Catterall's like, he's just a weird, awkward sort of style fighter. And then with Arnold Barboza, it's going to be a lot of movement. And what do we talk about with Teofimo Lopez? Like, cutting off the ring is an issue. And Arnold Barboza, like, that dude does his homework. Did you see? We all saw the Jose Ramirez performance, and you could tell, like, my main takeaway from that fight is he watched hours and hours and hours, and that team really dissected film, had a game plan, stuck to it, and just executed it damn near perfectly.
I think stylistically for Teofimo Lopez, they're both pretty dangerous. And I haven't given Jack Catterall enough props on the mandatory, but yeah, like, he could be a tricky fighter, right? He could be a fighter that I think a lot of people might want to avoid. Like, I don't want to fight a Jack Catterall because he could be a pest. Jack Catterall is actually a pest in the ring.
Both of them.
Yeah. But Arnold is, I feel like I really appreciate Arnold's IQ a little bit more than Jack Catterall's. Not to say that his is more than Jack Catterall, but Arnold is very tactical, right? Like, the way he moves around the ring, the way he throws the jab, and the way he was using his jab against Jose Ramirez too. And I think for Teofimo Lopez, I think he has to use the jab more. I think he has to learn how to cut off the ring, but he also does have that power. Arnold doesn't have that power. He is going to break you down by the round. But I think it's really, really interesting. I would say Barboza, Teofimo Lopez, to me, is the fight that I would want to see. But I also feel like if Jack Catterall was to win and Teofimo Lopez was like, nah, I'm not fighting him, because that could also happen. There's also Liam Paro and Richardson Hitchens that are going to be fighting next weekend. And I do believe the winner could get a guy like Jack Catterall, depending on who wins.
I can't wait for that fight.
It's going to be a good one.
I'm very excited for that fight.
Yeah. Someone in the comments, it was actually Hustle Man, good friend of the show, Hustle Man, said, who y'all got, Liam Paro or Richardson Hitchens? Which, by the way, Brian's been talking about Richardson Hitchens on this show for like over a year now. And we've only had this show for like almost
over
2
a
years.
year.
Yeah, you've been talking about Richardson Hitchens, and you're like, yo, like, he could cause a lot of problems for some people. Who do you have in this fight?
Now, granted, he didn't look awesome in his last fight. Like, we can start there, but at the
Did
same
he
time, like,
lose? Did he lose?
I mean, technically no, but I mean, the people thought he did, and then his opponent went out there and got destroyed by Keyshawn Davis, and also was very, very, very overweight for that fight. It should be noted. So whatever happened there happened there. I think Richardson Hitchens and Liam Paro is a great 50-50-ish fight. I think Liam Paro has moved into being a slight betting favorite. I haven't checked the odds in a little bit. I still haven't placed a bet on that fight. Also, I don't really know which way I'm going. It's in Puerto Rico. I don't really think there's a home field advantage for anybody there. Liam Paro has the experience there, but I mean, Richardson Hitchens is from New York. He'll have plenty of fans in the
Oh,
arena as
okay.
well.
Okay. Is
So
that why you're biased or what?
I mean, he's from Brooklyn. You know what I mean? Like I've known about and have interviewed him several different times. I interviewed him once when he was fighting on the Andre Berto Sean Porter
Yeah.
undercard years ago. And he had to run out of the press conference because he had to pay the parking meter because like of where he parked his car before the press conference or whatever. And we laughed about that and shit. He was like 1-0, 2-0 at the time. Like he had just been an amateur.
So you rocking with Hitchens in this fight?
I kind of think he's being underrated now because of his last
Mm.
performance, and I think Liam Paro deserves a ton of credit for the way he boxed Subriel Matias's head off. But I also think like this may be a situation where Liam Paro is getting slightly more credit than he probably should, and Richardson Hitchens conversely is getting slightly less credit just for who he's been beforehand. That being said, I don't know how I'm betting that fight. I'm betting a decision. I'm betting somebody by decision, but I don't know how I'm betting this fight yet.
I'm rocking with Liam Paro.
Yeah,
And I just was way too impressed at the fact that he went to Puerto Rico
I can see that. Yeah,
and beat Subriel Matias, the boogeyman at the time.
I just don't know how he handles a counterpuncher like this. You know,
I think he's gonna just fight like Liam Paro, just tough as hell. Come forward, take shots, throw shots. Like Liam Paro is gonna just try to be the aggressor in this fight. And I want to see how Richardson Hitchens, I mean, he's really good at neutralizing that. Hitchens is a great defensive fighter, but I think it could actually be a very interesting fight. I would probably take Liam Paro by decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being a controversial fight. Like I could see
I can see
this
that
one
too.
being a controversial fight.
I can so
Let's
see that.
let's get to some more comments
Undercard
here.
for that fight. Undercard for that fight is good. Also, by the way, I mean that's where it being in Puerto Rico actually makes sense. Because if
Yeah,
you look at the main event, you're like, why is this out there? Which I don't mind. Like, I don't think you need to be. I don't think you need to be from somewhere to fight there. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, I don't think you have to be somewhere to main event there. But it does help, like the undercard. I mean, you have Henry LeBron, who we're both high on, fighting Christopher Diaz, who was going to be a featherweight champion at some point, and Top Rank was pushing him and Redacted at the same time as like these next Puerto Rican stars. And Redacted is now in jail, and Christopher Diaz didn't quite pan out to the level that Bob Arum once hoped. So this is a redemption last chance for him, and he's got a tough one at Henry LeBron. It's a good fight though.
Yes, I definitely agree with. And drop your comments, guys. Let us know who you got for that fight. I want to get to this comment from Al the Pal. Is 140 the best division to y'all? I think that's my favorite division. I think it's one of the best. I think
It's the
it's one of the
most
most.
it's the most maddening one. That's for goddamn sure. That's what we always say
Yeah,
when we talk about it. We're like, yo, this division's a fucking pain in the ass. But yeah,
yeah,
140 is awesome. It's
yeah.
chaotic though.
I still I've been obsessed with the heavyweight division, obviously, especially now that Daniel Dubois won that fight against Anthony Joshua. Like, I still think there's so much controversy in that division, and we also have Usyk and Fury too coming up at the end of the year. So for me, it's like, it's hard also not to love the heavyweight division. But yeah, 140, whose division is it really? It could really be anyone's division. Like, there's not one clear cut guy. Other than I would probably say Teofimo Lopez if I had to pick one for me to be like the best. But even then, like you got Devin Haney there. You know what I mean? 140 is like all over the place. It's one of those divisions where we're gonna find out some things. Hitchens wins by decision. Okay, that's nice. Ryan Hong, friend of the show. But our good friend Hustleman, Liam Paro stops Hitchens between 6 and 9.
That'll be plus money for sure. 1000%. Also, speaking of heavyweights and ordered fights, The IBF, did you see this? The
I
IBF a little
did.
while ago ordered Martin Bakole versus Efe Ajagba to see who's gonna fight
Yes.
Daniel Dubois next.
I'm interested in seeing more Bacoli.
I'm interested to see how Ajagba,
Efe.
like, have you gotten better from have your learning experience that lost to Frank Sanchez, which I think was actually on one of the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder undercards, and they had like the PBC up and coming heavyweight like I don't. A lot of people are gonna just pick Bukoli to just like walk through him. I'm curious to see how Fa Jagba sort of stands. I think he's gotten a little bit better since that loss.
You know what's crazy is that Efe Ajagba, I would have thought would have been a bigger name in boxing. Like when he first was a prospect in boxing and we saw how tall he was, like he looked like an absolute monster with power.
Yeah.
I was like, this guy's going to be a problem. I think I have a tweet from like 10 years ago. Like, this guy's going to be a problem. I'm pretty sure I can find it. I do remember tweeting this. And it's like, I'm underwhelmed because I feel like there was such high expectations for him. So I definitely want to see him against Martin Bacoli. And Bacoli, obviously, great performance against Jared Big Baby Anderson. And like that's another name that I feel like is still floating around there that we're like, what's next? What's next for him? This is a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. And one more thing I want to note on that. Like Ajagba, I was high on him. Then he lost to Frank Sanchez. And then going into the fight with Stephen Shaw, I thought he was gonna lose. I had bet on Shaw, and Shaw had just a flop performance in that fight. And he's gone like just down ever since. And then Fa Jagba fought the dude that kept hitting him in the nuts. I forgot his name, but like he won by disqualification. It was on ESPN. I couldn't
That was
pronounce.
a top rank card, wasn't it?
Yeah, I couldn't
Yeah, I
pronounce his
remember
name, but
that.
he
Yeah.
just could not stop just hitting him in the fucking balls. And then Fa Jagba won by the and it was blatant. Like
Yeah.
at one point, the other dude like it looked accidental the first maybe once or twice,
Who
and
was
then
that? I need to know. Like,
after a while, like the last one, he's like, "Oh God, I'm gonna lose anyway. Fuck it, bang!" Just fucking hit him in the balls. It was terrible. Then Fa Jagba looked really impressive against Joseph Goodall, and then Guido Vianello won a split decision. I thought he won that fight. That was slightly controversial, but that was also I remember that being a good fight, like an entertaining fight. So, um, I mean, I don't think Martin Bacoli is all of a sudden like a lot of people seem to think he's like the next boogeyman. He's going to be heavyweight champion and things of that nature. I think he can give anybody problems in the heavyweight division, but I don't think he's unbeatable at all. So I'm curious to see if Fa Jagba can actually like box his way to victory there, or is this going to be like Jared Anderson, and Jared Anderson I thought should have fought Fa Jagba. Maybe that's something we can
yes.
get at some point. I'm very if that fight ends up happening because it was supposed to be Zhilei Zhang and Bacoli first, I'd be very, very intrigued by that.
Yeah, we'll definitely see what happens. Let us know in the comments below on what you think actually the most interesting division is, how you feel about the heavyweight division, and who you actually might want to see Jared Anderson up against, or how do you think the Martin Bacoli Fa Jabba fight might go, and especially if it does go down, because I just believe it's been ordered, if I'm not mistaken, Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Order doesn't necessarily for casual fight fans, newer listeners, like order doesn't mean it's gonna happen. Like ultimately you gotta make the deal.
Yeah.
So,
But you know what? Let's see what happens with Fa Jagba, because I feel like he has to go like upwards, not that, you know what I mean? I feel like he's kind of been stagnant in terms of his career and that
yeah.
he should be a bigger name. So we'll see what happens with that. Drop your comments below. Also, if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button because it helps the channel grow.